Hi guys, so today I thought I would do a cutting video. So I have to make well, I don't have to, I want to make the Batwing wallet by Brittlicious Patterns. So I thought I'd just show you how I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to make mine out of this really cool vinyl I got from Spotlight. This is just obviously a scrap piece that I've pulled out of my scrap bin. And I decided to just line the inside with black because I don't have any kind of awesome orangey color. So this is what I'm using. So what I'm going to do, normally you would put the pattern on the right side of the fabric, but because this is a raw edge design, I actually want to draw on it from the back. So I'm taking my Chaco pen. If you don't know what this is, it's basically a chalk pen, but it's got a wheel that distributes chalk dust. So I'm going to line this up in this corner and then just trace around the wallet like this. So you probably can't see it on the camera, but it's distributing blue chalk so that I can see where I'm going to cut. And you can use it almost like a pencil, except it can only go back and forth and not sideways. So you have to twist it with you. So this is what I use for all things when I don't want a permanent line. Because it's chalk, you can just dust it off. It's just with chalk wheels, tight corners like the wings are sometimes a little bit tricky. So that's that one done. Oh, you can see it in the video. Excellent. And then to make sure that these are going to fit together, you need to, so I'm putting the pattern face down like this. So I'm just going to pop that right there and then trace around this one as well. Now after this, there probably won't be much of this piece left of the scrap vinyl, but I also won't necessarily throw it away because I can still get some fun other patterns out of it. So I'm just tracing around, so that's that one done. Then I need two of these. So I'm going to come down to this corner here because I've already got two straight edges, so it's less tracing for me. And because they won't fit up here. And I always try and leave the biggest amount of space possible for other designs. So I'm going to pop that one here, so it's up against this angled side and this bottom bit here. It doesn't fit in there, unfortunately. It's just that little bit wrong. And I'm just going to have one window ID pocket, so I'm going to trace that onto this one. Now this pattern, because it's a raw edge design, you can use anything that doesn't fray. So you can use cork or vinyl, and you can get some really fun printed ones. Okay, so that's those three done. I'm just going to use some scissors to cut it out. If you wanted to, you could also use a ruler and a rotary cutter for these pieces. So there's one. And then, so this little scrap piece here I'll throw out. That's no good to me. It's too small. And then I might just, so I'm going to fold this over like I do a pocket and just make a snip. And you'll notice just then I put my hands on the ends of the scissors. What that does is give extra pressure to help cut through the two layers of vinyl. Not all the time do you need it, but if you're cutting lots of layers and your hand down here can't do it, you just grab both the ends of the scissors and just push, and it gives it that extra little nudge it needs. Okay, so that one's now got a window. This piece here is big enough to go back into my scrap pile. I have all my scraps color coordinated in Ziploc bags. It does help with the organization, and then I can see when a bag's getting too full, I'll go and do some fun smaller projects. So I have a lot of smaller projects. KM Designs does some really cool like minimalist wallets. There's also an embroidery design one, which I will be hopefully getting to this week. Or you could do the Pocket Pearl by Lynn's Handmade. It just depends on what size your scraps are. So I always try and get the biggest one possible out of my scraps. And then sometimes you'll also get like a second one of a smaller one. But if you start at your smaller, it's hard to go bigger. Another one I do a lot of actually is the, what's it called? There's a coffin, a mini coffin, like Ziploc one, minimalist wallet by Seemingly Wicked. I can't think of what it's called right now. But I make a lot of those as well because they're great scrap busters for all your vinyl. So I'm just going to cut out this zipper pocket hole as well while I'm here. Like that. So that's all my vinyl pieces. So you've got this one, your Batwing wallet. So to make sure it's worked while you're still at your cutting table, the idea is that will go wrong sides together. So just make sure you've cut it that way. And then these two are obviously rectangles, so they're a lot more pliable. So that's those ones. And I've just realized I will actually have to recut this. I have cut this edge, although maybe I could turn it into something decorative. Okay, next up is some waterproof canvas. So this is the black one that I stock. I know Americans use Ottertex, I believe it's called. I've looked for it, I can't get it here. So I'm going to use a ruler, which I just need to grab from underneath the camera. So sorry if that shifts. So the pattern requires card slots. And I'm going to make it out of this. So I'm going to line up that edge so it's all nice and even. And then I'm just going to rotary cut off a big piece like that. Now this should be enough for the 2 lots that I need, but I'm also going to cut off this edge because that's no good to me either. Alright, so we're going to go 1 and 2, and this last little bit here, I will throw that out. I have no use for pieces that size. So that one is a scrap. So that's those 2 done. That's for my card slots. Then we're going to move on to the other parts. So I'm going to open this up, and I always trace it onto the silver side just because it's easier to see. You also notice I have not interfaced these or laminated these. I've just run out of time. You need a pen. You can use the Chaco pen, but a real pen's just as easy and just as quick. So I'm going to just trace around my paper. You can use paper. You don't have to laminate them. I just find laminating so much quicker. So we need one without the line. And then this little line here, we actually need to be able to mark. So I'm going to cut along the line. I'm just going to fold it over, make a small cut, put my scissors in, and I'm going to cut on the outside edge of both sides of the line. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a channel big enough for me to get a pen into. So if you just cut out basically the entire line, that's one end done. Now I just need to come back down the long end. And And this is how I would do it even if I laminated it. I would just use probably a rotary cutter and a ruler, because it wouldn't be as pliable to go around corners. Okay. So now, oh, whoops, now I've ripped it. That's okay. I've got some sticky tape to solve that problem. But you can now see, when I place this down, I can see the silver through the hole. I also find it easier to do lots of small lines than one big one. So there we go. So now I've got, you can't really see that, but I've got the line marked on here. So I need 2 of these. When I try and do long lines, it doesn't work for me. So there we go. And then I'm going to line this up along here and just cut out these smaller sections like this. You don't have to trace it like I do. I just find the smaller lines are ultimately quicker than me trying to draw a big one. Because there's so many angles, I'm tracing this. Otherwise, I could have also grabbed a ruler if it was like straighter in a different pattern. So I'm going to use my Fisker scissors to cut this out. So I'm going to just start down the side. I always start with the furthest piece, and for the most part, so now I'm just going to cut straight across there, down and across. So the aim of this is to cut the pieces I need off the bulk weight of the rest of it. So now I'm not fighting the waste of all of, not the waste, the weight of all of the rest of the piece of waterproof canvas. Now, obviously, if I wasn't recording, it would probably be up on the table, but I would still cut it off like this because I just find it easier, personally. So now I can just come along and do all these vertical cuts. And then we just get to cut out the funky one. Now, the reason that these are all funky are these are tabs so that there'll be no raw edges of the lining showing as well. So you don't have to use a waterproof lining for this. You can just use like a cotton or anything you've got. And we're just going to come up the top, cut out that corner. Like that. And then this last one here. So that's that piece done. That one's done. Those two are done. Now it's just this one. So for this, I will grab a ruler and a rotary cutter. If I was more organized, I'd probably have a smaller ruler, but you can still do it with this. And I'm just gonna rotary cut the main big line. From there, I can get my scissors in and cut the other smaller angle pieces. But it's much easier to rotary cut the big centerpiece. So now that is going to fold the tabs back. So before I sit down to iron, I am going to fold all of these back and then, before I sit down to sew, I'm going to go and iron all of these back like that. So all that's left to do is to cut out some stabilizer, which, oh, there it is, and some clear vinyl. I've got all my stuff relatively handy. I know I keep running away. I should have been more organized, but I'm not. Now, this one probably doesn't necessarily matter which way you put it, because it is stabilizer, it's going on the inside, but as a general rule, I'm going to want to stick it to the wing, because the wing is where the press stud's going to be. So this will reinforce where the press stud is without having to add another piece. So I'm just going to get into the corner like this, trace around the stabilizer piece. So the stabilizer piece will be smaller so that it's not seen in any of your seams. And then this is the main stabilizer, so I'm just going to line it up here. Like that. And then I can cut those out. The last thing that we're going to need is some clear vinyl. Now, if you don't have clear vinyl, just don't cut the window hole and then you won't need it. It's just if you've got ID and you like an ID clear slot section that you can see through, but you don't have to do it. The pattern is doable without it. I'm going to just do one for the video. Okay, so that's that done. Now, even though that's a very small piece of base stabilizer, I will still keep that because I can still get something out of here. So there is very, very little waste in this sewing room. The problem is then I become a little bit of a hoarder and everything's kind of around. So, clear window piece. It says cut 2, but again, I'm just cutting 1 because I'm only done 1 of the window holes. So I just need to find a straight edge somewhere that hasn't got issues. So this here actually is a fault, so I don't want to use that bit. So I'm going to go just past it because it's a fault anyway. I can't ever use it. And then I'm just going to do my small dashes around. Now, clear vinyl sometimes doesn't mark as easy as you'd hope, which is why I do lots of little lines. So I've got enough, you probably can't see it on the camera, but I've got enough here that I can see. And the pen on this very, very edge, you won't see it. So if you've still got a little bit of a line after you've cut it, that's okay. Because the idea is that, where's my piece? This is going to sit over that. So from the back, you can see there's an overlap. So the vinyl has to be bigger than the hole. So your little bit of pen that may or may not be on it is not all that bad. So I'm going to iron it and then we can go and start sewing it. Alright, quick little update. I actually put the interfacing here because that's what the pattern said. I went and checked. But I'm going to be using my new cool magnetic rivets anyway, so it's probably not going to really matter, but it is something to consider. But the pattern said to put it there, so I'm going to do what the pattern says. The second thing is I cut my first one of these the wrong way. So the way to double check to make sure you're cutting it right is when you lay this wrong sides up, this one, where the cool little angle part is, because everything else is relatively square, it needs to line up here with the Batwing part. So that's how I realized that my first one was the wrong way. So I just thought I'd add this into the video in case you were copying me exactly. This is something that you need to know. So when you fold it all under, the angle bit will go up past the wing, and then the other piece of the wing is going to hide that raw edge there. And then these ones all get folded down like so. Okay, let's go and do some sewing.